He was the man who appointed Peter Mandelson to be the ambassador to the United States, the man who said to an FT journalist earlier this year to fuck off.
Reform MP confronts Keir Starmer over PMQ's statement. You're not going to believe what just happened at Prime Minister's questions. In the middle of what was already a tense session, a Reform MP stood up, locked eyes with Keir Starmer, and called him out directly over a statement that many believe didn't add up. The clash was fiery, it was dramatic, and it left the chamber buzzing with shock. For once, the spotlight wasn't on the Prime Minister dodging tough questions. It was on the opposition leader himself. And what unfolded next? Well, it could shift the way voters see Starmer in the months ahead. PMQ's Prime Minister's Questions is supposed to be a weekly test of the government. The leader of the opposition grills the Prime Minister, trying to expose failures, broken promises, and contradictions. But this week, it was Keir Starmer who found himself on the defensive. As he delivered a pointed criticism of government policy, a Reform MP rose and challenged him head-on. The accusation was sharp, that Starmer's words didn't match the facts, that his framing was misleading, and that he was bending the truth to score political points. The room froze. Gasps, murmurs, even laughter rippled through the benches. 4 years, PMQs has been criticized as little more than theater, but in that moment, it felt like raw, unscripted accountability. Now, here's why this matters. Keir Starmer has built his reputation on integrity, on presenting himself as the serious alternative to chaos. Where others use slogans, he uses facts. Where others shout, he positions himself as calm and measured. So when he's accused right there in the House of Commons of not being straight with the public, it cuts deeper than a typical insult. It strikes at the core of his political brand. And the Reform MP knew it. That's why the challenge landed so hard. The exchange didn't stop there. Starmer fired back, insisting his record of holding the government to account speaks for itself. He dismissed the accusation as nonsense, and turned the attack back on the MP, accusing Reform of grandstanding instead of offering real solutions. But the damage was already done. The clip was out, circulating online within minutes. One user wrote, "Finally, someone has the guts to call out Starmer in the chamber. About time." Another hit back, "Cheap shots from Reform. Starmer handled it with class, the MP embarrassed themselves." And that's the dividing line, right? Was it bold truth-telling, or just theatre? Reform UK has been trying to carve out a bigger role in British politics. They position themselves as the voice of frustration, saying the Conservatives have failed, Labour can't be trusted, and only they speak for the people. So this confrontation wasn't random. It was strategy. By targeting Keir Starmer directly, Reform made themselves part of the story, part of the headline. And for a party fighting to be noticed, that's gold. But here's the twist: the risk is just as big. If voters see them as disruptive rather than constructive, it could backfire. Because people don't just want fireworks, they want answers. Back inside Westminster, reactions were mixed. One Labour MP told reporters, "This was a disgraceful stunt. Reform are dragging Parliament further into the gutter." But a Conservative backbencher had a very different take. Starmer didn't look comfortable. He's used to controlling the narrative, but today, it slipped. Journalists jumped on it too. One wrote, "Rare moment at PMQs, the leader of the opposition challenged on his own accuracy. Whatever side you're on, this was electric." And the public? Divided, as always. Some saw Starmer exposed. Others saw him unfairly targeted. But everyone agreed on one thing: it was a moment. British politics is entering one of the most high-stakes election seasons in decades. Trust is low. Cynicism is high. And every word from leaders gets dissected, replayed, memed, and weaponized. In that environment, perception becomes reality. If people think Starmer can't be trusted, even once, it sticks. That's why this clash, even if it started as theater, could ripple far beyond one Wednesday afternoon. 4 years, voters have said PMQs is a joke. Just shouting, insults, rehearsed lines. And yet, it's these unpredictable eruptions that cut through the noise. Because when a Reform MP stood up and said, "Hang on, you're not being straight with us," it was messy, but it was real. And maybe that's exactly what politics needs more of. Still, this leaves a question hanging in the air. What happens next? Does Starmer brush it off and carry on, untouched? Or does this moment seed doubts in voters' minds, doubts his opponents will gladly water, week after week? And for reform, was this a one-off spark, or the start of a bolder campaign to take on both main parties head-to-head? So I'll leave you with this. Was this Reform MP delivering the accountability voters crave, or just performing for the cameras? And for Keir Starmer, was this a small blip, or a sign that his Mr. Integrity image is more fragile than it seems? Because in politics, it's not always the scandals that change everything. Sometimes, it's the moments that make people look twice and start asking questions.